From what I remember, it was very early in the morning. It was pretty much on the first sunlight, and I remember the sirens started going on, and we just ran from our bedroom, and our house had a view of the valley down beneath us, and we're able to see planes pretty much throwing bombs at the nearby other nearby centers or where the Greek military was. And it was a complete panic at the time, and we turned the news on just to hear that Turkey was invading Cyprus. There were two invasions. The first invasion, when it happened, everyone pretty much gathered their belongings after we heard about the invasion. We gathered whatever we could. My father took his car, and we loaded the car with pretty much all of us and a couple of things that we could pick up real quick. And at the time, Bapu and Yaya, and we've left the town to go towards the mountains. That was the first invasion after we left abruptly and whatever we could, because we were told that as the Turks was invading, they were going to invade our village. The way that we were impacted is pretty much seeing the aeroplanes bombarding nearby military bases, so we just pretty much captured our things and got into the van and drove away. Other incidents where a lot of the villagers were able to pick up their guns and pretty much got ready to be able to develop a front to stop the invasion. I think in the 20th century, it's hard to believe or digest that a country can invade another country and take 40% of its island and without any repercussions. And even we have what's called the United Nations, that you think that they will be there to help support. They really haven't done anything besides being there and not supporting a resolution that is fair for the people that lost their homes. So it's kind of it's hard to digest, and hopefully at some point people can understand what really happened and they can come up with a solution for people to return back to their homes and end what happened 50 years ago. I think it's important to look at and hear the stories from other people as well, because we're fortunate enough not to have any losses from our family or immediate family. It's sad to hear some of the losses that happened from other people and the prisoners who were caught during the war. So during the war, there are a lot of people that stayed behind, that they were captured and they were sent to Turkey, and they were mistreated, violated, and it's very sad to hear their stories and what happened to them. At the same time, what's important to share is the stories of also the Turkish Cypriots, that when I went to visit, and there were some Turkish Cypriots living in Cyprus at the time, and hearing their side of the story, that they wanted the Greeks to return back, and they wanted the Turkish troops to move out of the island. They wanted to live in an independent and free Cyprus, and it was nice to hear their perspective as well, understanding that they were impacted as well, because they were living a different lifestyle before the invasion, where after the invasion they had to live with the Turkish troops and live with a culture that, while they were similar, it was far different from them at that time. I think what I'm most proud about is what my father taught me as a young kid, regardless of anything that happened, to be able to rebuild, to be able to get a good education and being able to rebuild my life, and being able to help at least build the family and advance the family to as best as I could. There's many, but I can describe a few of them. I remember the one time that the first time I went to visit our town when Turkey opened up the border for us to go see it, thinking that it was a good thing for the Greek Cypriots to go visit their homes, but indeed it was their plan to be able to support that side of the island through the income that was coming from the southern part. The moment that captured me was when I took my mother back and she saw her own house occupied by Turkish people, and the look on her face, thinking that if that was happening to me, experiencing her as a mother with 5 children. So she felt betrayed, she felt down, she felt empowered and disgusted by what happened and how people in other countries allowed this to happen in the 20th century. I think it's important for them to know, because sometimes we forget our own history, and as we see now, it passed 50 years from the invasion of Cyprus. It wasn't a long time ago that there was another disaster that Greece had to encounter with the Turks when they were able to leave the mainland Asia, which was 50 years before that. So sometimes when I think 50 years is a long time, it's not, because it happened within my generation, and I think we need to learn to develop a better future, that as a country, as a nation, we're stronger to fight injustice and to be more fair with people in general. So I hope my kids are able to learn to create a better, a safer environment, and not just for myself and my background and what we have to go through, but with all different cultures and what they have to endure through life. There are several occasions that I can recall as pretty much the Greek military will pass by our coffee shop, and we help them out with making, preparing some food for them, mostly sandwiches, so they can go fight the war, and they will head up the mountains, and pretty much you could see the soldiers coming up with their trucks, and they will go towards their destination to create the first line, the front line, and we'll hear the stories when they were coming back. Some of my uncles describe a lot of the incidents that they were at the front line and what happened to them. Specifically, one of my uncles was telling me about one of his friends that he was shot in the leg, and they had to pick him up and transfer him back so they can bring him back to safety. I would say that it made me stronger as a human being, being able to understand that you can't take things for granted. Made me realize sometimes, the power of others. So if they overpower you, obviously they can take over, just like what happened to a small island from being attacked by a country like Turkey, and making you realize that you have to work hard in your life to rebuild everything. And looking at the family and everything that they had to go through, developed a certain personality, perhaps not as detaches you a little bit from your emotions and makes you stronger as a human being, so you can be able to survive. What had to happen in our case, we had to serve in the military after, and it takes a certain special training, and that even makes you stronger, so you can be able to withstand just about anything. So it taught you how to work. I was able to work right after when I was 12, 13 years old, to be able to earn money so I can pay my expenses. I've done many different jobs, working at anywhere from just about anything. So making pizzas at nighttime, to working at before pretty much after school, so I can pay my expenses. So that kind of teaches you a lot of life lessons, so you can be able to teaches you that pretty much survival more than anything else. So a lot of the people, they tried to find whatever they could to rebuild their lives. They went back to do jobs that to help them provide food on the table, so they will do anything. A lot of them went back to construction, just like my father did, so because he lost all his properties and everything that he had. So they had to go back and do jobs that mostly labor, so they can be able to support their families. And that happened throughout all of the refugees pretty much, because they didn't really have any business, or they could continue their business when they moved, or they were forced to move from their locations. Everybody got together to try and support each other, seeing now the Turkish people from a different perspective, specifically the military, of attacking the island. So something that wasn't expected. So pretty much the Greek Cypriot were able to unite and try to capture their lives, but at the same time, a lot of the friends' family were dispersed at different locations of the island. So that made it hard to connect with them initially, but through time they were able to develop alliances of getting together and just trying to find out how everybody's doing by connecting and creating some kind of groups for each one of the towns, so that at least they can associate with one another and find out what happened. Everything changed for us. So as we moved, the family moved together, our immediate family, but all the relatives, everyone else moved into different parts of the island. We ended up in a few different locations, and we found a destination initially in Limassol, and really that changed everything we had, because my father was able to take a little bit of money with him, but at the same time we didn't really have any money following those dates. So we had to be able to pick up groceries, and we're able to rely on the government and a few other entities to be able to get food on the table. We left twice. The first invasion was on July 20th, where we expected to have a big celebration celebrating the Prophet Elijah on our small village. And we were going to have a festival, and instead we found ourselves loading up my father's car with my Papuan Yaya, and at the same time I had a little pet by the name Patrick, a little pet goat, and we took our pet with us and we left towards the mountains. That lasted for about 2 days until we found out that the Greek forces pretty much were able to win the first part of the invasion, and we're going through a treaty so they can agree with how proceeding with the invasion. Little to find out that the treaty was violated by the Turks again. They released a second wave of attack it was sometime in August 14th, where they did the second invasion. Now this time, thinking that we were going to win the war, we picked up only very little stuff again, just picking up our car again and loading up a few groceries from our mahazi that we had back then, the coffee shop. Again, my Papuyaya and our pet goat that we have, just to find out that, again, this time we're never able to come back. So we found ourselves trailing up the mountains, going from little town to little town, sleeping outside or sleeping in the van for about a week, until we were able to unite with some friends up into a village up in the mountains, until things calmed down a little bit from the war. The invasion pretty much stopped, and then we moved down to a nearby city called Limassol, where we were able to stay there for about a few months.